here, and I'm excited to talk to you all about customer service and operations. And before I screen share and we get into everything, I'm curious to hear from all of you. What are some of the challenges that you have, either or both, with customer service and operations? Does anybody have any challenges that they want to share that come to mind?
So I think people can say some individual things. Like, I have heard people tell me one thing that I think is related to customer service is getting people to understand why their things are priced the way they are. I've heard people talk about customers being not as patient, like people want a response to their email within 5 minutes. Ladies, what are some of the challenges you see? Somebody wrote in the chat window comparing prices with China prices. What are some of the other customer service issues that people have had?
I'm sorry. Hi, Holly. My name is Naya. One of my challenge that I'm presently facing right now is making something for someone that they wanted that, and then when it's done, they want to change their mind, and they expect you not to, like, charge more for for changing their mind. And I don't know, like, how to, like, follow up, like, hey, you need to pay more, or I can, this is what you wanted and that's what I'm giving you.
Okay, so like they place an order and then you make it, and then they change their mind or they want to make changes to that order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I do custom clothing, by the way, so.
Okay. All right, so changing orders. Anybody else with customer service problems that you have?
I have in the past had a problem, like Naya was saying, like sometimes the customers don't know what they want, and then you have to like help them navigate what they want, and then it's like, and then they always change their mind. So sometimes you have to like suggest things, and then it's not always the customer's right. Sometimes you have to kind of like educate them.
Yeah.
Because they could be, if they don't understand the construction, they could be a little bit demanding, not knowing really what they really want.
Okay, that makes sense. And like, Denise, where do you find your customers, or how should I, maybe I should say, how do customers find you?
I usually under somebody else. So it won't be my customer directly, but I'm listening to the process and how people could change their mind. And they could say they want something, but they really undecisive.
Okay. All right. So dealing with that. Does anybody here work with customers directly for their own business?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. So where do your customers find you, Naya?
Some Instagram, some from Custom Collaborative, word of mouth, like when I do something for someone, they tell the next person. So yeah.
Okay. So we might say like word of mouth is definitely one way.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Okay. All right. And I'm curious, has anybody written like a customer service policy for their own business before? Has anybody created that?
No, but it'll be good to know how to do it.
Okay. All right. So we're all kind of starting from scratch here. Okay, great. That's perfect. So a big part about customer service is making sure we get as much as we can in writing, so that if we have these times when people are coming back to us and saying like, oh, well, I changed my mind, we have a written policy that we can always redirect back to about, okay, well, you're allowed to change your mind, but revision, if you want something different, you know, this is how we charge to make those revisions. So today we're really going to talk about like just making sure we can put everything in writing, and that, you know, how is the best way to go about doing that, and where does that information live? I'm curious just to know, does anybody have employees that work with them or other contractors, or is everyone pretty much independent here? Anybody with employees?
Momoka and Ifunaya and Christina work together in a cooperative in addition to them having their own businesses. Is that the kind of thing you mean?
Okay, yeah. And there might be other people in that cooperative too. Okay, so that definitely groups. Because we'll talk a little bit about this, like everything that we're going to talk about is applicable if you're doing this on your own, but it also applies if you have employees, or if you're working in a cooperative structure, like if you have to work together as a team, how do we make sure everybody's staying on the same page within that structure too? So I think, can I screen share, Ngozi? I think I have permission. Okay, perfect. So let me just get this set up, and then I'm going to pull up a slideshow for us to talk through. Okay, and I'm going to hop between a few documents, so I'm just going to leave it not in presentation mode, but kind of in this, but everyone should be able to see it. So we'll talk through both customer service specific operations, but then also I'm going to leave you with information about just operations in general and how to really document systems within your business. And then I put together a worksheet for you, which I'll share with Custom Collaborative, and then they can share that out to everyone that's here today. So basically, there's 3 goals for us today: to understand how to build systems within our business to free our time and energy, because, you know, as you know, dealing with customer service or, you know, these types of things takes a lot of your time, but it also takes a lot of your energy, and it can be distracting. So that's why systems can be really important, to make sure that we just have something that we can always come back to say, this is the way it is, without question. And then these are great tools if you do end up having employees or people that you're working with, contractors, and you know, even within a cooperative, and you want to be able to say, this is the way we do it here. You know, like creating a system says, this is the way it's done here. So even when we're working in a cooperative, we all have to agree on, this is our customer service policy for our cooperative here. And then the last part is just that it's going to help create clarity and consistency and make your job easier. So you don't want to have to think about like, oh, well, how might I talk to them about if they want to do a return, or how do I want to talk to them about if they, you know, question the pricing. We want to really simplify your job and just make sure that everything is a lot more consistent. So we'll touch on all of those things today. So to get started, we're going to go through an exercise together. And we're going to talk about making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I know sounds so basic, but there's going to be a point to this exercise. So I want everyone just to like take a minute and to write down what your directions are if you are going to tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And, you know, just jot down some notes and see how many steps you come up with for how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So we'll just take a few minutes. Okay, does anybody want to share the number of steps that they wrote down? Okay, Beverly.
Okay. Let me just take my hand down.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I started out with, okay, first I would wash my hands, the area that I'm going to be using, and my utensil. Next, I will toast my bread. Next, I will spread my peanut butter, sprinkle on a little bit of cinnamon and some apple butter. Then I will close it and cut it into 4 squares.
Okay, great. I love, so you touched on like pre-cleaning, you touched on process, like you want it toasted, you have very specific ingredients that are going into it and a very specific way you want it cut.
Yes, and clean up afterwards because all that's important.
Okay, great. Denise, did I see, was your hand up?
Miss Beverly was very detailed. I only put 4 steps.
Okay, you had 4 steps. So what were yours, Denise?
Step 1, take out the bread and peanut butter and jelly. Step
Uh-huh.
2, get 2 slices of bread. Step 3, add peanut butter and jelly. Step 4, cut. And that's it, done.
Okay, so a little simpler there. A little simpler on the directions there. Who else wants to share their directions? Anybody else want to share?
Oh, I want to share. Sure.
Great, go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
First you gotta wash your hands and clean your utensils. I will dry them because you don't need the water, extra water on the bread.
Okay.
Take the peanut butter and jelly from the pantry. Take the bread also. Also take out 2 slices of bread. Just put the peanut butter on one part, on one half, and a jelly on the other, and
Uh-huh.
just put it together, and then cut it in like a triangular shape, and that's it.
Okay. Okay, great. You had some good specific call out there. It's about making sure utensils are dry, where to find everything. It's in the pantry, and you like a triangle shape. Okay, great. I think Annalisa, did you want to share? Oh, maybe. Does anybody else want to share?
I love that idea that you used.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 12-step process, which didn't include washing my hands. So thank you, Beverly, for giving me another step. So I can say my steps, it's a lot.
Go for it.
Okay, so I said buy bread, buy jelly. I added in peanut butter, although I already have it all the time. Get a clean spoon and knife, get a plate, put bread on the plate. Use the knife to put peanut butter on one slice of the bread. Use the spoon to put jelly on the other slice of the bread. Spread the jelly with the knife. Put the sandwich together. Put the peanut butter and jelly and the bread away. Put utensils in the dishwasher. And so I didn't cut my sandwich, but yeah,
I
those.
like that though. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Bendigozi, you gave us some good directions about go out and buy
Yes,
it, right?
I like that.
Maybe we don't have it, we have to go buy it. So that was a good call out there. And then putting things away when we're done with them, that was a good call out too. So I like those additions. Alan, welcome. We're just writing out how we might make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and how we might think about it.
This is definitely a scenario that I would use for small kids. I once was a Girl Scout leader, and I did something like that with making a pizza, but we use the English muffins, cut them in half, spread it, and they put the cheese. They had the olives, for the eyes, the peppers for the lips. And once they finished it, they didn't even want to eat it. They wanted to take it home.
Oh, sweet. That's sweet.
I do. Hi, everyone. Sorry for that. I do have something to add here.
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, when I was applying for a job in college to be a telephone technical support technician for an internet service provider, this was a job interview question, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Interesting.
And when I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old, I made a grilled cheese sandwich, and my grandmother called, and my grandmother's a teacher. My mom's a teacher as well, but my grandmother's a teacher, and she asked me how I made the grilled cheese sandwich. She wanted me to walk through the steps. I didn't realize this as a child at the time. I was just proud that I made my own grilled cheese sandwich. I wouldn't have to rely on my parents. It's been a long, hard day in the sandbox. Like, I need a grilled cheese sandwich. But my grandmother asked me to walk through the steps of doing that, and the art of instruction and the art of customer service. That's one of the roots of it. So I really do appreciate this question for what it is.
Yeah, that's great, Alan. I love that you have such a history with this type of experience and can connect those dots. Because the thing is that we think like, oh, these things are simple, right? Like, oh, well, everybody knows how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or well, everybody knows how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, it seems so simple. And sometimes we then make assumptions about how, well, of course, Alan would do it the same way I would do it, or of course, Ngozi would do it the same way I would do it. So I don't need to tell them what I want them to do because we're just all on the same page. Right. But that's actually just not the way that things work. So it's a really good exercise to understand, like, even the most basic things that we think like, oh, somebody will think the same way about that I do. We want to be really clear with our direction. Yes. So when we're talking about like building out operations and building out systems for our business, we always want to put into writing how we want things done within our own business, right? And that comes back to customer service. So some of the things that you brought up earlier, you all brought up about like communicating if somebody wants you to hurry up, right? And get back to them right away. How are you communicating why your customer service, you only respond within a 36-hour time period or something like that? We just all have these different expectations. So we don't want to take any of them for granted. And we want to make sure that we're always, being clear with people. Does anybody, before we move on to this exercise, does anybody else want to share what they put together or any thoughts about it? Okay, so it's good. You can reflect on your own, like how you're thinking about giving instructions. Are you somebody that's really specific, right? So we heard, Beverly needs 4 squares in that sandwich. Ngozi's not going to cut hers at all. You want to reflect on how you give direction and how specific you are about things. In a lot of ways, there's no right or wrong answer here. And same is going to go for your customer service policy. And we're going to get to creating that together as a group in a little bit. But it's not about there's one right way to do it. It's really about how you want it done and thinking about that and being really clear about that once you determine what it is. I'm going to keep using the word clarity because the clearer you are about how you want things done, that's when you're going to spend less time doing them. And so, the statement I have here about removing yourself from the day-to-day operations of a business. Day-to-day operations of a business means like all of the little tasks that we have to do to keep that business running, right? Answering those emails, speaking to customers about timelines and things like that, maybe doing some of your bookkeeping or financial planning, your accounting systems, all of that. Everything that you do within your business can come down to a system. And in some ways, you all can think about it. As sewers and manufacturers of clothing, I'm going to imagine most of you work from patterns, right? When you're creating clothing. So a pattern, is like giving you direction on how it should be cut and what it should look like. And you want to think about your systems for your business the same way, like this thing that's giving you direction. And sometimes when we're just by ourselves, when we're independent, we don't take the time to put things in writing, because a lot of people will tell me, you know, it's all in my head. It's all up here. And, you know, I keep everything up here. But that's kind of the worst place that we want to keep information, even just for ourselves. Like, we'll just feel so much better when we pull it out of our head and really put pen to paper and get it in writing. So don't let the fact that you might be operating by yourself keep you from actually putting things in writing and saying, like, this is the way that it works within my business. If you do have employees in the future, you know, you would definitely need to put things in writing for people, because this comes back to the peanut butter and jelly. If somebody comes in to work in your business, even though you might think that they're going to do things the same way that you want them done, you just never know. And so it's much better just to start from the beginning, to let people know what your expectations are, how you approach your work, how things are done within your business, rather than just assuming that they might be on the same page. If you do have employees, or for those of you that are working together in this co-op situation, it's really good to create these things together. So stakeholders are the people in our business that really kind of have, you know, a phrase we might say is like skin in the game, right? The decisions impact them. They are part of the process. So if you did have employees, engaging them would be really helpful in creating these systems. But for those of you that are working in the cooperative here, doing this together is really helpful. So coming together, you know, you can do it separately and then come together and discuss your separate answers, and then think about how you might want it to be for the cooperative as a whole. Or you can just sit down together and do it, you know, from the start, everybody on the same page. But it's really important to engage people in that process. So when we think about systematizing, I always say, like, you know, you think about if you go to the store and you buy a toaster, which seems like a pretty simple appliance, right? You know, we all probably could take a toaster out of a box and know how to use it, but it still comes with a user manual, this very simple appliance. And a business is so much more complex. So you're dealing with customer service, but you're also dealing with manufacturing the product. You're probably dealing with ordering materials from vendors. You know, there's a lot of different things. You got to pay taxes and keep up with your accounting and the financial aspect. Maybe you're marketing your business. You know, that's really complicated. It's a lot of different things that you have to do at once. So if you can start writing down how you want them all done, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to do things more consistently. So, you know, making sure I tell one customer about my return policy or my change policy and tell another customer the exact same thing, so I don't confuse myself or feel like I need to kind of like succumb to their demands. That helps create consistency in my business. It will save you time and money. It'll allow you to focus more on the creative aspect of what it is that you're all doing here with fashion and manufacturing. It's also a great emergency backup. So what happens if you're sick or something happens and you need somebody to offer a little bit of support for your business, and somebody comes in and says, you know, how do you want me to respond to these things? And then you can say, oh, well, just here's the customer service policy that I've come up with. So it's a great backup for you in case of emergency. Beverly, did you have a question? You're lighting up, so I just wanted to double check.
I'm sorry. No, I was trying to look to see number 3. I had wanted to screenshot it, but I can get it later.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to share the slideshow with Custom Collaborative, so you'll have a copy of it. So you
Okay,
can,
good. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now that we know why systems are important, we want to talk about creating effective protocols. So basically, like, protocols are what we would call this customer service protocol, right? It's the procedure that happens within our business, and it's what we're going to follow to do things. So the way that we want to think about this, and this is not the only way, this is just the way that I like to do it. But again, there's no necessarily like right or wrong answer. So if there's another process that works for you, I always encourage you to do what's best for you. But I always like to say common sense does not exist. So we always just want to make sure, again, we might think like, oh, make a peanut butter sandwich. Like, that's common sense. Everyone should know how to do that. But we all have different visions of what of what that is. So we don't know, you know. So we never want to make assumptions about that. So the first step that we want to do is think about the bigger picture vision of our company, right? So when we're thinking about our customer service protocol, we want to think about, why are we making these choices? Why are we telling somebody that something is non-refundable, or that they can only have 2 changes to something, or that they have to pay extra for something? How does it really relate to the bigger picture of what it is that we're trying to achieve? When we're thinking about explaining why our pricing is the way that it is, how are we communicating that? And why is it important for people to know that your product is handmade, or it comes from this certain fabric that's more expensive? So we always want to first try to think about what's really important, because then that allows this craft to keep moving forward, or this special thing that I do, you know, to live on. So we start with the bigger picture, and then we align it with our culture. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take this. There's an example I put in here that's not relevant. That was used for another class, so that's probably not going to mean anything. So you can just ignore it. But you want to align it with the culture of your company. So when I say the culture of your company, what does that mean? Like, is that a phrase that you've heard before? Like, how do you all think about what your company culture is?
Well, you definitely want to, you know, you want to stand for your word. In other words, I can't, the word I'm trying to use is on the tip of my tongue, but it's like how they say, my word is bond. You know, you are talking about your business, and you don't want any negative look on your business. So if anything, you want all positivity. You know, it's like sometime if you, let's say, looking for a restaurant and you go to the reviews,
Yeah.
and you see, you know, where people be saying, oh no, you know, they're very slow. You want to be outstanding when it comes to your business.
Okay, good, Beverly. So you're saying it's like the perception, how people perceive you.
Exactly.
Your company culture speaks to how people are seeing your business in the world.
Exactly.
How they perceive it. Okay, great. Who else has thoughts when you hear that phrase, culture? Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
So I think about flexibility and rigidity. So say that an organization has a policy or a guarantee of some sort, and there's a conflict with the customer. The policy might be flexible enough to make certain accommodations, but be firm enough to allow for a certain amount of quality. And I'm not speaking for this organization, but in my past organizations, there would be a policy, customer would break it, and then I would try to follow that policy. And then the leadership would go ahead and break the policy. So it was me who was being rigid and they were being flexible. So there wasn't that communication necessarily about the continuity from written word to foot soldier to leadership. So that was, to me, that's what the culture is. Like, how much of the written word is really what's really about your bones.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So like you're calling out the behavior, right? Like the difference between the written word and the behavior, where you follow the written word, but then they said, oh, well, we'll be more flexible. And actually
And
work it out.
right, and the culture might be an understanding between you, the leadership, and like you and the leadership as to when something is flexible and when it isn't.
Yeah.
That might be the where you build that relationship. But that was I remember I was trying to fix someone's computer, and they said, "Oh, we can't fix this on Sunday," and then the customer went to the boss and he said, "Oh, we'll fix it." Like I was like, "Okay," so you know, it was a different. That was all in IT mayhem, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So behavior has a lot to do with culture. Great. Does anybody
And
else? Oh yeah, go ahead.
also, if you decide that you're going to, let's say, make changes of something that has been into that culture for a while and you change it, I think you should some type of way, make it aware, because sometimes a customer may say, well, I've been coming here for 5 years and it's always been this way. Yes, we did make a change. I mean, sometimes when you're driving, if you pay attention, sometime on the streets, you may see where it says new sign, no right turn. Or so, you keep them, you may say to them, well, this time we're going to honor it, since you didn't know, but change have been made.
Okay, so communicating that big things, like making sure you're always communicating those big changes. So
Yes.
that I think this kind of goes back to your initial point, Beverly. People have a positive experience of the business, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think, Alan, the example you were giving, your bosses or leaders maybe were thinking like, oh, well, if we follow the policy, they might not have as positive experience. So we're going to be a little more flexible with that and change it. Anybody else have any thoughts on culture and what it means to them? Okay, so then when we think about our culture, we have to make sure that we're gonna, put it in a way that we want people to feel. Then we're going to walk through the process from beginning to end, meaning like we'll pick a customer service process. Maybe it's about change of orders. And we're going to think all the way from the beginning of the moment that the customer says, hey, I want something different, all the way to the end when we get to the, decision of why or what we won't do it. So we go through the entire process and then we put everything in writing. And here's where we really want to be as specific as possible. Apologies about the noise that might be in the background, but we want to be as specific as possible and try to document every step. So as you were looking at your peanut butter and jelly steps, were there 4, were there 12, were there 8, how specific were we getting? It's important to keep that in mind. Engaging staff, I already talked about, but then this kind of last point goes to what Beverly was talking about a little bit. Anytime you put something in writing, you should date it. You should put the date on, when you decided this, because things are going to change and you want to come back and be able to look at it and make sure that you're always having the most up-to-date policy with people. So we as a group are going to keep this in mind, and we're going to start talking through some customer service protocols, maybe that we want to develop together, even as just a basic framework. And then everybody, as an individual can add some specifics for themselves. So in order to do that, I wanted to pick, to begin, one policy that we want to focus on, and we'll see how we do with time, and maybe we'll do 2 or so. But I'm curious, like, what would be, if we had to pick one, what would you want to do? Would you want to do communicating pricing? Would you want to do customers that are asking about changes or returns or exchanges? As a group, what's everybody thinking? I think somebody. Oh, Beverly says it reminds her of bylaws. Yeah. Does anybody have a preference of what policy we work on together?
Sorry, can you say the choices again?
Yeah, so we can do like pricing. So how we're communicating our pricing to our customers. We could work on what we would call like returns, exchanges, or changes policy. I think those were two big ones. And then maybe just general communication. So how do we respond to customer emails? How do we, how much time do we allow? What kind of language do we use?
Can we do
So-
all?
Yeah, we can try to do all. Yeah, we can try to do all. Do you want to start with, maybe it's best to start with pricing, communicating our
Okay.
pricing.
Yeah, pricing is good.
Okay, so pricing is good. So I'm just gonna hop over to another sheet and take some notes while we talk. Okay, so let me just scroll down here. So we did this. Okay, so when we're thinking about our pricing, can anybody share some issues that have come up? I think I heard in the beginning, one is like that people think the price is too expensive. Is that a common problem that people have?
I have one.
Okay.
Okay, let's just say if someone comes into your business and maybe one of your workers priced something the wrong price. Okay, let's just say if it's a pair of jeans that normally would be $125, and maybe one of the workers put the price tag on there for $49.99. Okay, I have seen situations like this. And, when you speak to one of the sales persons, of course, they will say, oh, that's the wrong price. No, I head straight to a manager, and I understand it's the wrong price, but you have to deal with your worker, not me as your customer. I did not do the price. Now, a lot of places, I know Macy's will honor and give it to you for that price, but they will, in some type of way, recommend whoever did the pricing, but they'll make sure that it's changed so someone else don't come up with the same, with the same thing. So that's one thing that definitely has to, when you are speaking with your workers, tell them, I know sometimes you be working fast. It's good to work fast, but you also got to make sure that you are doing it properly.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. So good point, Beverly. What happens in our business if for some reason it got mislabeled or we had quoted somebody a wrong price? Let's say we're, making something special for someone and we give them a price and then all of a sudden we realize, oh, it is actually going to have to be a different price. I think you make a good point. Like when we're dealing with a store like Macy's, they're in a very different financial situation, right?
Yes.
That they can, accommodate if there was such a dramatic change from $120 to $49. But for us, if we need to communicate why a price might change, we'll have to think a little bit differently about why we couldn't, why we have to honor the price that is the right price for our business, right?
Right. Yes.
While still, respecting the customer and their needs. So I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts on how, or wants to share with us how they talk about their pricing to people. Has anybody shared information about pricing that they feel like has gone over really well with their customers? Alan, is that a yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I also do pies. So I was like, people think my pies are expensive, but when you communicate the value, it changes their perception. And if that's one thing, same thing with custom collaborative, the value and the price are two different things. And custom collaborative is about giving a living wage, and that's going to affect the price, but you're actually going to get more value out of the products that they sell and whatnot. So when I have gone away from, when it comes to communicating about explaining the price, I don't talk about money. I talk about value.
Yeah.
So I always talk about, this is the distance between the person who made your clothes and the person selling your clothes. And this is custom collaborative's distance. It's right there. And the value you get from knowing where your clothes, where they're sourced from, knowing that if there's an issue, who you can talk to. And like the quality of your clothes is going to be something that you might not be accustomed to. So people are used to paying a certain amount of price for wholesale clothing. So they may not, so the value has been skewed for like these low cost clothing. That one, you don't know who made it, and two, you may not be as aware of the quality of the fabric or how it was put together. But the value with custom collaborative is that you know all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I, because customer service, I understand this is higher and that this is the price, but this is why we did it. And like people like to listen to why, in my experience.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's talk about value. So part of the value, Alan, you were saying about is the relationship, right? You get to know the process and the people who are making the clothing. That's one. That's part of it.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody else have ways that they describe the value of what it is that they're doing? Does anybody want to share?
Hi, Shimoy here. I would say the time that we take to make, to create, the time put in to fix the machine, like sewing clothes, fix machine, cutting and sewing, just the time and effort that is put in, that's what I would say the pricing would be.
Okay, so Shamoy, you're thinking about like how much time goes into making this, handmade piece rather than something that's really mass manufactured. And then what about your own creativity? How is everyone thinking about their own creativity when it comes to the products?
It makes the product very unique, something that they won't be able to find anywhere else.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So you have your own unique creativity. How many of you here share the story behind your products that you design? Is that something that people share on their website or when they're talking to customers?
Well, you can share it on a website, or you can like, for instance, the past weekend, someone was doing just a little PJ pajama party in Atlantic City, and they had asked if I could do about 5 or 6 floral arrangements. And when I explained to them how I did it, I told them about the sustainability. I used the little, the apple pomegranate drinks, the small ones, how it has the 2 balls. That was what I used as a vase. I used like tape, cut out like the flowers from the tape. But at the end of the day, you couldn't see any of the writing. The only thing you actually saw was the little heart, because normally you would take them and just put them in the recycle garbage. And how I dressed it up, I'll send a picture just to post it. But what they was amazed about is I took some of the downy little crystals that you sprinkle in your clothes to make your clothes smell good, and put that in the bottom with the plastic crystals. And then I had a light underneath that was changing colors, and they was like so amazed of the sustainability part of it.
Huh. Amazing. So that was part of the story that you shared, that the sustainability aspect. Okay.
And
that's
they loved it.
That's what really hooked them. That's what got them. Okay, good. That's part of it. So the thing about when we think about spending money, or we think about why customers spend money, there always has to be an emotional connection, right? So we have to have an emotional reason that we're going to do this. So Beverly, that example you just shared, I get excited, about the sustainability aspect. That's what's emotional for me. And then I want to purchase this thing. So when we think about the value, these are great things that everybody should sit down and take notes on for themselves when you're putting together, okay, this is why my pricing protocol is what it is. because, you know, you get to have this relationship with the maker. I invest time to create and, you know, maybe hand sew it or, you know, your machine sewing. And here's the unique story behind my product. If we're missing those things, it's going to be really hard to communicate the value and why we're deciding about the price that we're charging. If we're just thinking about, well, they should know it's special, or they're coming to me, so they should know it's more expensive, we forget that we really have to communicate. So to create how you're setting your pricing, if you all write these 3 things out for each of your business, that would be a really great place to start, to lay the foundation. When we think about what to do if the price is wrong, I want to come back to this one. What do we think we should do within our own businesses? If Macy's honors the lowest price, who thinks that we should honor the lowest price in our business, even if that's not the accurate price? Does anybody think that? Okay, good. So we shouldn't, right? So we want to talk to them. Oh, the price has changed. And why is it important that they honor the price that it actually is? The good thing is that you can use the same protocol here, right? So when I come back to you and I say, okay, I've had to make some changes, and here's the price has changed. Here's why it's this price. We just come back to why we price things the way they are in the first place. Here's the story behind the product. Here's maybe the more time. Maybe the price has changed because of the certain fabric I'm using, and you're going to help me understand why that fabric is so valuable, right? So I might put materials in here too. And when I go through all of these points, then I should get to a point where it's clear to the customer about why my price is the way that it is. So we've touched on our relationship, our time, our own creativity, and our materials here. So I would encourage each of you, you'll get a copy of this worksheet, to write out what those things are for your company. And here we'll just write back. Let me just see. Okay. Oh, only 1 or 2 of a kind is usually, so like a limited production, Ngozi was saying too. Let's add that. Does anybody have any questions on pricing as we're writing this out, or any thoughts or any concerns about communicating this? Okay, well then let's jump to customer communication. So I think somebody at the beginning of class brought up like feeling like you have to hurry. Does anybody have right now policies that they follow for their own business around customer communication? Like how quickly you return an email? Do you allow people to text you or call you? Do you only communicate through email?
Okay, I would say if you are trying to promote your business, I think that you should, try to be available in more than one way. In other words, not just by email. I mean, some people can text better than with the email. Everybody is not all the way tech savvy. So if you make it where if they can't reach you by email or by text, even if it's to say that it's okay to give you a phone call.
Okay, good point, Beverly. So you have to tell people how they're allowed to reach you, right? So what
Yes.
channels? Can they call you? Can they text you? Can they email you? Can they send you a direct message through social media? Be sure to
Yes.
let people know, right? So if you don't answer your direct messages on social media, be sure to tell people, don't reach out to me there. I won't be able to respond. Here's where you can contact me. So that's the first thing.
And I think it's also okay to say a time, let's say between 9 and 7, it's okay to give a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to be clear around what hours of the day you actually respond to things. So
Yes.
sometimes I know that people who have children or family demands have hours that are just non-negotiable, right? And that's perfectly acceptable. And so you want to let people know, well, maybe I only respond to emails between 10 and 3, or, maybe you can call me between the hours of noon to 3. So we're going to tell people what time they can reach us. That's important. And then what do we think about how quickly we need to respond to people?
I would say, I don't know, 24 to, I would say 24, at least 24, no more, no later than 72 hours.
Okay, so Beverly's saying 24 to 72, Alan?
So I don't mean to be long-winded, but how many people remember Gateway Computer?
Gateway,
Gateway.
you said how many remember it?
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Huh?
I do.
Right. They did well with their computers, but all their customer service was free, 24/7. People could call in, 800 number, cost them a lot of money. That's why the IT industry, like Dell computers and everything, they created tiered service support, gold, silver, and copper. And each one of those levels was when you could expect a certain level of customer service based on how much time to respond and when you can access those people.
That's cool.
Interesting. Okay, so you could think about doing something tiered if you wanted to. I don't know what that would look like for everybody that's an individual, but I like that point, Alan.
I do too.
So we can put back here.
Gateway is gone. I just wanted to, yeah, so.
What year were these computers, Alan?
Well, Gateway computers were back when I started, like 1900, so it's like it's around 19. I want to say they ended in like 1998 or something like that. They were gone. It was like there was this cow, and every box was like had a cow pattern on it, black and white on it and whatnot.
Yes.
And they were basically better than Dell before they came out because they were just bare bones computers. This is so. There's probably a case study on this, on like how they just went. It was literally they had an 800 number, and that's why they failed. Because it cost them so much for the tech support. They're gone. That's it. The computers are as good as Dell or anything else.
Yeah.
Right now, so.
Okay, so we're telling people we're going to answer when they can reach us, how quickly we get back to them. So let me just write that one. So you can decide for your own personal business if it's within 24 hours, if it's in 48 hours, if it's in 72 hours. That was kind of the range Beverly gave. You want to make sure that you tell people that if you do or don't respond to communications on weekends, right? So that's another thing. And you shouldn't have to feel like you need to respond to communications on weekends, unless those are your working hours that you choose. It's really important to think that you don't have to be available all the time, but you have to be clear on when you are available with people. So if somebody's reaching out to you and they want to work with you and they want to, order something, sharing your communication protocol is something that you should share with them right away when you respond. Thanks for reaching out. I'd be happy to talk to you. And here's more information about my communication protocol that would answer all of these types of questions. Does anybody feel like anything's missing? Yeah, go ahead.
Also, I have seen setups where you will call in and they like, rather than to be waiting on the phone a long time, it gives you the option and says that if you would like a return call, you will not lose your space in line. You can press the number and they will call you back. I have had that before, and they do call back. I know Social Security now has that, and quite a few, and they do get back in touch with you.
Yeah, yeah, those are that's super fancy, Beverly. I don't know if anybody here would be in the place to be able to automate that, but I really like that idea. Something we could think about, like what could be automated.
Yes.
Okay, we can put that down. Well, to your point though, Beverly, I don't know if anybody here uses an email responder, right? So if you aren't going to be answering communications in the evenings or over the weekends or at certain times, you can turn on an automatic responder on your email that will tell people that you're away from your desk and that you'll get back to them the next business day. So you don't have to feel pressure to do that.
And what, you would go into like your settings for something like that?
Usually in your settings is where you'll find that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll look at a note. Oops. If you do take phone calls, having a voicemail that can receive, business messages is really important too. So maybe you set your voicemail to give some sort of instructions like, please follow up with an email, or here's where you can reach me at this email. We'll write that too. Okay, any other thoughts on communication protocols or any other pain points that we haven't touched upon?
I think that's good. I think sometime a little piece of snail mail, like a card. I know I've received cards from Custom Collaborative, just to let you know what's going on when a registration is coming up, or whatever. Sometimes I think that's good also, because actually I think that was how I found out about Custom Collaborative. I actually saw it was a postcard that was on the ground. I didn't want to touch it, so I screenshot it, and that was how I actually found out about the program. So
Okay.
sometimes a little snail mail,
Good point, Beverly. So now we're talking more about like marketing, right? So that might have been a marketing tactic from Custom Collaborative. So we'll just talk about marketing communications, we'll say. So we could put snail mail, postcards.
Yeah, like promotions.
Yeah. And now there's a lot of companies where you can print postcards pretty inexpensively. And that's a really great option. But in terms of customer communication, does anybody have any questions or things that we're missing here about what should be covered? Okay, so we've covered pricing. We've covered communication protocols. Let's see, does anybody have any other customer service What about taking orders? Does anybody ever have a challenge with like taking orders and keeping that system clear?
If you are going to do the taking orders, I think you have to really be specific. Because I find I was even speaking to my daughter, like a lot of, I'm just going to say restaurants. You'll call or they'll say they don't take phone orders. And, you'd be like, as busy as they are. And I'd be saying to my daughter, well, how do they deal with the DoorDash and all of that? And my daughter was saying they do that through email. So in other words, you would, whatever the system is, you would have to, have something or someone. I mean, even if it gets to a point where you just have someone, if you're really, really busy, like, the brother that make the pies, he may need somebody just taking orders, specific orders just for his pies.
Alan,
And I hope he posts that card too.
Alan, do you take the orders for your own pies? How do people order from you?
Well, I set up a workflows and automated processes through my website and on Instagram or whatnot. So I hire a bunch of robots and androids. I'm in IT project management, so I just create a lot of automated processes to handle that, and I have automated responses as well. So. Okay. And I set up a little alerts on everything. So whenever I get a pie order, my entire apartment lights up with it's like the bad signal. It's so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I think Beverly wants to know the name of your pie business.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat. I didn't want to take away from custom. This is so. Yeah.
Does anybody here take orders or have a system or feel like they want to talk about developing a system for taking orders? Does everyone feel okay?
Yes, I have a question. My name is Momoka.
Yeah.
I am a member of the co-op.
Yeah.
And I usually communicate with the clients, and I usually the one who responds to clients' email. And then when it comes to accepting orders, we have ongoing projects and we can take too many projects at the same time. And the custom collaborative production manager once told me that if we get overwhelmed responding too many emails to new clients, and then we can really take care of the ongoing project, then we should, what he said was we shouldn't respond immediately. We can take a little time to respond to the new clients. So I do it sometimes when there's too much. And also sorry. Yes, that's what I do. And what do you think about this?
Yeah. Well, I think, Momoka, that it's good advice. There's maybe one thing that we could do in addition to that, right? So that's good feedback that if you're busy with orders, you want to make sure that you understand how you're prioritizing your time. But it would be really good if you had somebody then that ordered, but you couldn't get them in their project going right away because you're already full with other orders, to let them know, right? So we should have a policy about responding within 24 hours and saying thank you for your interest. And here's when we can follow up with you, right? So it's actually good to let people know that you're busy. People like to work with people who are busy and who have a lot going on, because that shows that you must be reputable and people enjoy your work. So what I would recommend is that even if you can't work with them right away, you follow up with them within 24 hours and let them know, thank you, and we'll get back to you next month, or whenever you think that opening is, that you can be back in touch with somebody. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that makes sense. Thank you. So, I think we are going to use a template for this kind of email.
Yes, you can definitely do that. You can create, and that's the whole thing. If you put all of this in writing, you should be able to copy and paste, right? So I'm writing them out as questions that everyone can answer for their own business. And then once you have them answered, you can copy and paste them, so you don't have to always think about it.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I have one more question. Since
Yeah.
we are cooperative, I can't decide anything by myself. The co-op member have to agree what we're going to do with the project. And so I think when I write back the emails to the client, it takes more than the other companies because we have to decide as a group. And I sometimes think about the transparency, how much we should tell the customers about our situations. Like we have to agree everything, or we're still deciding on things, or I don't know how, we should be very, very open or should be close some parts or.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think again, like if something comes in that you have to talk through with the other co-op members, you're kind of asking, should I let the customer know that I have to discuss this with the other co-op members? And my feedback about that would just, it's okay to say, again, thanks for reaching out. I'm going to discuss with my co-op members because they know that you're a co-op and that we'll be back in touch with you. So that kind of transparency is good, and that's okay.
Oh, okay, it was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just write a note about this. Okay. Any other customer service questions? We only have about 15 minutes left. So anybody else have questions?
Can I ask one more question if
Yeah.
anybody else don't have? Okay. So you told us about the client's email responder system that we can set up.
Yeah.
But sometimes I receive the emails from the clients like 15 minutes before 5 p.m. on Friday, which I feel very annoying. What I should do if this happens?
Oh yeah, so it's 15 minutes before. There's a few things that you can do, Momoka. One, if it's 15 minutes before you're leaving on a Friday, a good thing to do moving forward, if you end your workday at 5 o'clock, a good thing to do would tell people that you don't answer emails that come in after 3 o'clock on a Friday, so that you can respond to, people you have time to respond to, but you can also let them know that in the last 2 hours, those emails you'll respond to on Monday morning. So that's a great policy to put in place for people. You don't have to feel pressured to stay and finish that email. So even like next week, you can let people know moving forward, this is when I'm on email and this is when I'm responding to email.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the last few minutes, I put together, beyond customer service, these are some great basic protocols that you can put in place once you've gone through these questions and written them out for your business, and then you can always come back and refer to them. But I also just included a little bit more in terms of how to actually make a full operations manual for your business, if this is something that you're interested in doing in the future. And then I put together a worksheet for you that guides you on how to go through this process. An operations manual is like sometimes we call it the Bible of our business, right? So it contains all of the information. Like I said, the toaster that has its manual, an operations manual for your business really contains everything. So I just wanted to go through a basic outline with you of what would that even look like? And it's something for you to think about as you move forward in your business. So I'm just going to jump here. There are a lot of tools that you can use to help do this. And I don't know if anybody currently works in like Google Docs. That's a great program and super easy. Most people use Gmail, and so they have access to it. But there's other programs out there that are actually built for these specific types of things. And they're called like Suite Process and Trainual. But you don't need to invest any money in software unless you really wanted to. It's, you know, it's really up to you. You just want to think about what's, you know, the access, what's easiest for you to access. So if Google Docs is something that's easy for you to access, even handwriting, you know, some people handwrite things still. If that's easiest for you to access, do that. If writing something on a Word document and printing it out so you have it physically, that's great. And then always think about the visual appearance of it, especially, you know, you're in a visual field. So as you're writing out directions of your business, you know, how does it look visually is important. And then the last thing I wrote here is just layout. You know, it has to be easy to digest. Sometimes we might want to think of these as like checklists that we actually go through and check things off while we're working throughout the day, but not always. So really quickly, I'm going to run you through what an operations manual might look like should you want to build one out for your business. So usually it has 5 basic sections. One is just like this broad picture, and we'll talk through each of them about what the company is and your financials. 2 is personnel, meaning if you have people that actually work for you, employees. 3 is your organization, as in like how your business actually runs. 4 is about the equipment that you use, and 5 is about marketing. And so I broke down in each slide usually what goes into each section for you if you ever wanted to put one of these together in the future. And you'll see it's a lot of information, right? So when we start with this very broad picture of like the company. So contact information for you, and eventually if you have employees, your list of passwords and account numbers. So, you know, I'm sure as you run a business, you have different types of logins, different types of things that you know, you've got your business bank account or your email or, you know, that marketing platform that you're using, keeping all of that together. Company history, your company values, if you know what those are. If you've ever been in the press, you can collect that kind of thing. If you create financial projections for your business, if you have tax information or accounting protocols, all of that is great information to collect and keep together. That really tells you, like, think of that as like the headquarters of your business. You know, if you're doing this all on your own, it's kind of like home office. It's really what helps make the business run. If you do ever end up having employees, these are all the types of documents you should have in place to have, you know, a healthy employee system, from job descriptions to employee handbooks and employee review forms. So a lot of information once we start bringing employees on board, and a lot of documentation that we should have for, you know, that type of relationship. Organization, which is the 3rd section, is really how your business runs. So for you all, this is about sewing and manufacturing, right? So that, you know, how do you produce your product? Do you have patterns that you keep documented? Do you have sketches that you have done of, you know, things of clothing that you've created before? How do you pick fabrics? Who do you use as fabric vendors? All of that type of information should be kept in this type of section. You can really think about organization as like how you're producing the product, how the business actually runs on a day-to-day. How do you package things when you're ready to ship them off to a customer? Do they come and pick it up from you? You know, is it packaged in a nice bag? You want to think about all of those. equipment. So, all of your sewing equipment, everything that you need to actually make the product. You would want to have instructions around how to maintain it properly, how to keep, I think Shimoy brought this up, just the maintenance of the equipment and how do you keep it all, operating really well. And then the last section is all about marketing. So marketing is like, are you using social media? Are you using a newsletter? What's your content calendar? How do you get started in, putting your marketing documents together? So I know this is a lot of information and it's much more than we would cover in this class, but I just wanted to give it to you so you had an idea in the future if you were thinking about doing something like this. Because what I have here is a worksheet that will teach you how to do it. So if it is something that you're interested in starting to build, then you can read through this worksheet that really talks you through how to build a manual. It goes through all of those pieces that we talked about. And then also it will walk you through, let's say, get down to the bottom of this, how to create systems, right? So when I was talking about putting everything in writing, you'll see that there are directions here. I give you an outline about how you might think about putting your manual together, everything that you might include, and then how to get started in actually writing them. So here's directions. So when you come and you all want to write your customer service protocol, you can look at these directions that I've outlined for you here, and you can come back to this worksheet that we did together in class and answer these questions for yourself, but use this worksheet and it'll give you directions on how to actually write out a protocol and to make things clear. So you have a lot of resources between those documents. So I'm just going to hop out of this and we just have a few minutes left. So does anybody have any last questions or thoughts?
It was very good, very informative, and I really learned a lot from it. And you said that we'll be able to access this again.
Yeah, so I'll send over these documents and then Doris and Ngozi, you can share them with everyone. But yeah, you'll have a copy of them.
Yes, but it was very informative.
Okay, good. Any other last questions or thoughts?
Nice haircut.
Oh, thanks, Beverly.
Okay,
All
it
right.
looks like Annalisa and Naya both sent over their thanks and thought this was good. Irma too. So this was really great, Holly. I feel like not only have you taught people things about their individual businesses, but it's helping me think about Custom Collaborative as a business and what we can improve and do. So thank you so much. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're welcome. And you're welcome, everyone. And I wish you a lot of luck. And, sometimes I know when I talk to people about like, write it down and, create these documents and they're like, oh, but that's a lot of work in of itself. But I promise you it'll save you time and emotional energy in the long run. So if you find yourself saying like, that's a lot of work, just try to do a little bit at a time, just a little bit every day will get you there.
Yes.
All right. Well, good luck. Thanks for having me. And I hope everyone has a good weekend.
You too. Thanks again.
Okay.
Thanks, Ngozi.
Cheers.